welcome back to another fabulous video on my channel. I'm Jacob from Jacob Books Corner, and today we are talking about my top 10 recommendations for romance. Originally this was like a boyfriend recommendation, so all these I'm recommending for the boyfriend in the book, but we're not going to be talking about this. This is just going to be like a read this type of moment. We're going to run through them, and I'm going to tell you briefly what the story is about, how much romance is actually in it, and why I recommend it as like a recommendation of a romance. I will mention as we go through here, since I'm not telling you exactly who I picked for that boyfriend, I'm curious to see what you guys would think the boyfriend picks are. Two of these, one of these I don't even know because I changed the way the video is being told, that I don't know if I'll recommend it anymore. But there's two controversial picks on this list, so let's go ahead and just run through them. So we have The Darkness Outside of Us by, oh my god, I can't think of his name. He's mostly a middle grade writer. He writes like books about animals, and he wrote this like very young adult, very steamy like space drama that I fucking loved last year, and I'm recommending it to you again. It was my favorite book of the year, and so it's just another place where I could tell you go read it. It's about two astronauts who are sent on a mission to go save one of the astronauts' sister, one of the astronauts from the US, one of the astronauts from Russia, and down on Earth those people were at war, and so it's like this big deal, and they form a bond. It's amazing, it's beautiful, very heavily romanced. There's a lot of romance with the mixtures of the sci-fi plot, but I don't find the sci-fi plot to be very exhausting as I find some of the others. And then we have All the Time in the World by some, I don't know author's names, I'm sorry, but it's on the cover. This was a debut last year. This is a post-apocalyptic world where the world just kind of ended. They do explain it, but I'm going to tell you the world ended. There's no zombies, no like supernatural creatures or anything like that inside the story. It's just simply people against people, and these two characters have to come together to go on this mission to find another group of people, and it's about their journey to that mission, destination or whatever. And the arc of the characters and the arc of the romance or the relationship that they form is quite gorgeous, and I recommend. Next one is The Charm Offensive by, I know this one, Crocken. Annie Crocken? Something Crocken. This was a romance. This is a romance novel. This one is full romance. That's the whole point of this one. This one is about a man who works on a bachelor type show, and he is the handler for the bachelors when they come on. The bachelor he gets this time around is like a nervous wreck who doesn't believe in love, doesn't believe in all this shit. He's only there for publicity, and it's about their journey and their romance, and it's amazing and it's beautiful. The only thing I'd recommend for you to understand for this one is that the anxiety rep is amazing here, but it's very triggering. So please read with caution. It's still gorgeous. Next we're going to talk about is Check Please. I recommend both book 1 and book 2. I think you need to read both. In my opinion, they're both out. They're graphic novels, and this follows our main character as he goes off to a school to become a hockey player. He is a baker, and he is the sweetest and cutest little thing in the world, and he joins the hockey team, and on the hockey team he ends up meeting Jack, who, let's just say there might be more to Jack than meets the eye. I don't know. It's great. It's fabulous. It's a fun-ass time, and it's a completely, like, you get to hear every bit to the story. It follows his freshman to senior year of college or high school. I really couldn't figure out what they were in, but whatever type of schooling that they're in. Next one we have is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is also, I'm going to deem this one controversial because one could say this is not a romance. One would be right, but one would also be wrong. I'm specifically recommending Shadow and Bone book 1, not the rest of the Grishaverse, so just make that clear. And one would also say Six Crows is probably a little more romantic than the initial Shadow and Bone series. But there's a character, if you read it, who is not exactly the nicest person, who I just fucking adore, who the ship there is amazing, and I just recommend it, okay? That's all. I can't talk more without giving away spoilers. Shadow and Bone is about light versus darkness. Yep. Okay, we're gonna cheat a little. My next recommendation is a recommendation of 3, but they're all by the same author. So that's why we're cheating a little. I'm going to recommend it in the order I think you should read them in, but I recommend all 3. Anytime I've ever recommended these books to anybody, they all love them, so just be aware. The first one being Red, White, and Little Blue by Casey McQuiston. That's obviously the author we're going through. We're going to be talking about all 3 of her titles, and I'm going to explain what the main difference is if that's something you're looking for. This is a very non-plot heavy story that deals with a lot of politics. I guess the main plot here is the, election. It's very little. At least I think so. Some people do not agree with me when I say that in these videos or on TikTok or whatever, and that's my opinion. So, Red, White, and Blue follows Henry and Alex. Henry is the Prince of Wales and Alex is the president's son, and it's their tumultuous relationship. If you don't like a book without a plot, and if you don't like a book that's obviously fuck you. If you don't like a book that has to deal with a lot of sexual content, I do not recommend, but if those are things that do interest you, and some witty banter, and a scene with a turkey that's amazing, I highly recommend. The next one being One Last Stop. Once again, it's all the same author. This one is extremely plot heavy, and it follows our girl August as she runs off to New York and she meets a girl on the train who seems to be out of this world. That's all I'll say. This is extremely plot heavy. If you like a female-female romance, this is for you. Graphic sexual content, this is for you. It is a slow burn. This, they fuck very soon. It's a little bit before they start fucking. It's still very good though. And yeah, this also has like a mystery plot to it and like family drama and family elements, but mostly like if you're looking for that female-female romance and stuff, I highly recommend this one. Is Side. My heart. I did not love this one as much, but it was still amazing. I don't reread this like I reread Red, White, and Royal Blue. Then lastly, if you're looking for something a little more tamer, I recommend her YA novel, I Kissed Chara Wheeler. This just came out this last year, and once again, I do recommend this over her adult ones if you're looking for something not super steamy. The romance here is actually very dry, but everything else is amazing. The conversations about gender identity and just growing up in a very like religious world or whatever all work really well. And I like the concept, very plot heavy, very, very fast. I don't know if I got this one signed. I don't think I did. I think I bought this one full price. Because like, did a friend buy this for me? And I don't think so. I think I went out with a friend and I was like, oh, I gotta buy that. But look how cute. I'm so happy they are at a point in their career now that they get hardcovers. These, for instance, Red, White, and Royal Blue, One Last Stop, only got hardcovers in Book of the Month, and then some like they eventually got hardcovers later on. This was like one of their first ones that actually like got a hardcover, so exciting. I recommend The Elder Curses. Now, this is not my favorite ship from Shadowhunters. My favorite ship is not technically a ship yet, so I can't declare it, but it is what it is. If you've been on the channel long enough, you know who they are, but I'm not going to talk about them because it's not important to the conversation. This follows Magnus and somebody. I'm trying to be vague so there's no spoilers here. Okay, because this one predominantly deals with characters from the Mortal Instruments, I'm going to describe to you what the Mortal Instruments is about instead of Shadowhunters as a whole, because I just tried to do that and it was a total fucking mess. Mortal Instruments is about Clary as she discovers the world of the Shadowhunters, which is these beings made from angels who go out to hunt demons and downworlders and stuff like that. This one is a spin-off of that. This takes place after the events of that series. So once again, it's hard to recommend because you have to be so far into it, or maybe you just want to read it. That's fine. A little weird for you. This is book 1. There's book 2 out. Book 3 will come out during the Dark Power series, or Wicked Power series, which is her next one, after the one that just ended. The final series in the Mortal Instruments, which is sad. I'm excited for it though. And this one follows Magnus, so a different character who is obviously on the cover, but I'm not going to spoil it. And it's about their romantic getaway that turns into something a little more sinister. And it's a fun time. It's fucking hilarious. It's very, very funny. You know, I can't talk about it. I moved on from them. The next one I'm talking about is The Anti-Relationship Year by Katie Weismer. This is one I chose, mostly because of Miller, which is one of the love interests in this book. This one follows Jo as she heads off to college, and it's a timeline flipping between her freshman and senior year. The only thing you know coming into the book is that during her freshman year, something horrible happened, because when we jump to her senior year, she's completely different. And it goes back and forth to explain that story. And the reason why I recommend this is Miller, which is her best friend, who is one of the best book boyfriends you will ever find. That does have some trigger warnings in it, so I do recommend looking it up. And then lastly, no one's shocked here, we're going to talk about Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is simply the book to read if you're into romance, right? It's the perfect, cutest, sweetest little romance you can find on the market. And if you love Nick and Charlie and you don't care for spoilers where they end up, I highly recommend some of the novellas and some other stories by Alice Oseman. They're very common characters in a lot of her other works that's not Heartstoppers. But if you've never read Heartstoppers and you only heard about it through the TV show, which I also recommend, I do recommend reading the books. There are 4 of them and it's fucking gorgeous. I'll link my video. And that, my friends, is my romance recommendation for you in the month of February. I don't know if this is going to be like coming like a normal thing, but I just want to come in here and recommend some romances. And yeah, all these books I love with my whole entire heart. I love the characters. I just love normally all these books are 5s, and there might be one on here that's like a 4.5, but mostly everything is a 5. So it does get my stamp of approval. I did take out the extremely controversial one. If you guys want to know what it is, you guys can comment down below, and maybe I'll tell you. Alright,